or two just to allow the last little stragglers to join the session, and then we will get going. Okay, and I think we can proceed. So as I said, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our session. It shouldn't be a long session because we're going to be covering the upcoming exam and the Invigilator app. I just want to remind everybody that the session will be recorded. So there will be a link made available via the module site after the end of the evening session. At this time, you should all know that you are writing an exam at the end of October. And I really, really hope that you have started making preparations to write the exam during this time in an undisturbed space and in an undisturbed place. So please make sure that you know what your exam date is and that you prepare for your exam. Simply because it is an open book does not mean it's just easy because I can copy out of the study guide. Please do not let this be you during the session that you're going to write your exam. So make sure that you prepare. I'm going to pause for one moment quickly. I am going to ask Asanda. Asanda, raise your hand if you can hear me. Balentle, raise your hand if you can hear me. Am I audible at all? Are you able to hear me? Okay. Asanda has their hand raised. Asanda, what I'm going to do, if it's okay with you, I'm going to unmute your microphone. So I'm going to allow your microphone, Asanda, and I'm going to ask that if there's a problem because I cannot see hands, if something goes wrong and I fall off or the sound drops or something goes wrong, to please just unmute yourself and say, Prof, there's something wrong. Please stop and check. Is that okay, Asanda? You can just throw me a thumbs up if it's okay. Like that. Okay, brilliant. Awesome. Okay, let's proceed. So 28 August 2024 is when you will be writing your exams. And as I said, it is an open book. The exam session is 4 hours from 1 o'clock until 5 o'clock, and you must upload on the Invigilator app by 10 past 5. So the system will open at 1:45, and at this time you will be able to access and download your exam paper. Log on to the Invigilator app. You will know that there's a 45-minute window that you can log on to the app. I want to advise that you do so as soon as possible. You cannot log on to the app after 1:30. Then the university will deem it as non-compliance with the exam regulations and you will not get marks. I want to remind you to please read the questions carefully and to paraphrase and to reference. And then last but not least, there is not a contingency link. So just some highlights. So it's vital that you realize the importance of timing when it comes to the Invigilator app. There is a small window period. Failure to log in will also mean you don't get to write the exam. Failure to upload your exam paper before the time has passed, 10 past 5 on the Invigilator app, may also mean an automatic disqualification and you are automatically pushed to the next exam period. But if you are writing a supplementary, it means you have to re-register for the module. So at this stage, you should be intimately familiar with the OWL app, the Invigilator app. I want to urge you, please, you have the student guide. There are guidelines. There is a QR code for you to test it. Test it, work out the kinks before the time. Do not wait for the Monday morning of the exam to test it. You will again get your QR code. This is your QR code. It will be on the exam portal. You will have to scan this, and it is also shared via your module sites. Please note that it will only work on the day of the exam. And when you scroll to the bottom of this little information clip, right at the bottom, there's a WhatsApp number. That is the number you contact if you have a problem with the Invigilator app. Please test the system, and if it doesn't work, contact the people from the Invigilator app at the WhatsApp number provided. I cannot help you with this. Not that I don't want to, I cannot. I have no access to the system. Only the people who work at the Invigilator app can help you. This is the WhatsApp number. Please write next to my email address and my cell phone number. Write down this WhatsApp number. They do not take calls. They only take WhatsApp messages, and they will help you there for the exam if you are experiencing a difficulty. Again, the lecturer cannot assist you. Okay, so your open book exam. Let's take a look at the image here as an example. You are going to get a case study. You are going to get the same case study as we used in assignment 2 with a little bit of flesh added, a little bit more detail added. Let's take the image here and imagine this is your case study. And let's imagine the question asks something like, use the information from the case study or the image and list the number of chairs and explain what color they are. So you have two parts of the question. You have a list the number of chairs, so that's the first part, and then you have explain what color they are. Now let's consider what such an answer might look like when you're answering. So I just made up a random question name, a number, question 1.1. So this is how I would answer this question. According to the case study, there are 3 chairs in the image. So there's the first part of the question answered. How many chairs are there? Then what color are the chairs? All 3 chairs are white in colored. And then I unpack. White is defined as the lightest color and is achromatic, meaning that it has no hue and it does not appear on the color wheel. And I give a reference. That's called an in-text reference. You will see that there's a surname, a date, and a page number. Now, for each question, in other words, for question 1 might have, for example, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Anywhere in question 1, you need to have a reference, at least one. Same for question 2, same for 3, 4, 5, etc. At the end of your exam paper, on the very last page, I want to see a reference list. And Bloom, who you see here, must be in the reference list. So I can award 1 mark for Bloom here in question 1.1. And I will award another mark for Bloom in the reference list because it's completely and correctly completed. So please, please, please make sure that you reference in the text and that same reference appears in the reference list. You will be expected to complete the honesty declaration. So you don't have to submit that separate document anymore that tells you or that tells the examiner that I declare this is my own work, and then you sign it. You don't have to do that. So before submission, you will declare honesty. You may not ask anybody for help. You may not get a third party to help you. You may not use artificial intelligence to write your exam paper. What you may do is you may use your study guide, you may use your tutorial letters, you may use any other legitimate document that is related to your work, provided you reference those documents. Now, I will be placing on the exam portal your study guide and feedback tutorial letter 201 and some other helpful pieces of information. So they will be there at your disposal. The settings have been done in such a way, because it's open book, that you will not be flagged for out of app time, because you are supposed to leave and go and look at your resources that you are using. Let's recap quickly. The exam date, 28 October. You must download your paper, or you can download your paper at least by 12:45. The exam paper or the duration of the exam session is 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You must scan your QR code between 1:45 and 1:30, 45 minutes. You must load your answer onto the Invigilator app before 5:10, and you must upload your answer script to the My Exams before 5:30. If the system is closed, the system is closed. I just want to verify this 5:30 date or time. I will also clarify it with the exam department so that I can confirm it's 5:30, but I will be putting the date on the instruction page. So please also take a look at that. Important information. We are now in October. You have to know what my email address is. You have to know what my telephone number is. You cannot, on the day of exam, contact me via WhatsApp or via Telegram and say, I have a problem. All communication must come through your MyLife email account to my email, and this is my email address. You cannot now say, oh, I don't know what your email is. You write it on a little post-it when you are preparing for yourself for the exam in your space, and you stick it somewhere where you can see it, as well as the WhatsApp number for the Invigilator app people, so that you know who to contact in the event of a challenge. Make sure your cell phone is charged. Make sure your laptop is charged. You do not have to stay online for the duration of the exam. So you will log on to the app, download your paper, and then you can start answering. So you don't have to be online on the exam platform for the duration, but the app must remain open for the duration. And believe it or not, that is it. I'm now going to set the system so that you can unmute your mics and you can ask questions. I invite you to raise your hand. There's a little icon at the top there where you just raise your hand, and then I will take the first 3 questions and we can then answer those questions. I can obviously not tell you what the questions are going to be in the exam, so please don't ask me that. Eileen, I see your hand. Any other people that want to ask something? Okay, Eileen, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hi, Professor.
Hi.
I was struggling with my network connection, so during the duration of this session, I missed a few information. So
Okay,
I
what
don't know
did you
if you
miss,
mind.
Eileen?
The network started connecting when you were recapping everything else, but
Okay,
before that, I
Eileen.
didn't see anything.
Okay, Eileen, there will be a recording available of the session. So I'm going to ask that you look at the recording. But what I can do is I'm just going to give you the recap of this. And this is the most important. This is the absolute most important. Do you want me to talk about the case study quickly?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the exam will be based on the case study. The same case study you had in assignment 2, but with a little bit more detail. So how would you answer from a case study? Let's imagine the image there is the case study, and you are asked the question using the information from the case study, list the number of chairs and explain what color they are. So that question has 2 parts. And this is where some of you sometimes miss the plot. You only answer the first half of the question and you forget about the second half. This is third year. You are expected to be able to use a little bit higher order thinking. So there's 2 parts. How would this question be answered? So I would answer it in terms of, according to the case study, there are 3 chairs in the image. So there is the first part of the question. Second part of the question, all 3 chairs are white in color. Then I explain a bit what white is and I give a reference. I will give a mark for that reference if that reference is on the last page of your exam paper. And if the reference is not older than 10 years, and vice versa. So you will get a mark for the reference in the reference list, and only if it's used in the text, and if obviously if it is correct. So I hope that explains it a little bit clearer. Let me just hop to the end then. Masisa, you may unmute yourself and ask your question.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Prof.
Howdy.
Oh, good. Okay. It's just a quick question regarding the referencing.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it a must to reference each and every question that we come across?
No, not each and every question. At least one question per category. For example, so let's say question 1 has 4 sub questions: 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Anywhere in that collection of 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, you put a reference. So you don't have to do it for 1.1 and 1.2 and 1.3 and 1.4. Anywhere in that little grouping, you do it. So too for question 2, if it's 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, anywhere there, you put a reference. That answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Sure. Masisa, you may lower your hand unless you have a follow-up question. Thank you. Any other questions? Ramasela, yes, you may unmute yourself.
Hi.
Ah,
Hi,
hi.
everyone. Hi, yes. So also when it comes to the referencing part, if I don't put any in-text referencing, but at the end I do reference, is it not going to be marked as correct, even though the answer is
No,
correct, but
no,
it's not?
no. Remember, the purpose of a reference is It tells me where you got the information. That's in the text. Now, so that's like the example that I gave you with a paragraph and then the reference at the end. That's an in-text reference because I'm giving evidence of this is where I got the information. But now I need to go and double check. Does this reference exist? And that's why you have a reference list.
Okay.
Okay, so the one they complement each other.
Okay, and another question, the last one. I saw you
Yes.
mentioned contingency link. Not sure. Yeah,
Yes.
what is it?
Okay, if you don't know what it is, it doesn't matter because it's not there anymore.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay.
Hey, thank you.
Okay. Cornell, you may unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oh, hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Professor. My question is based on the referencing also. Let's
Yeah.
say, for example, question one, the like answer based maybe on, let's say, the person who stated or who wrote some of those answers that I'm writing. It's Benson. Then I an in-text reference Benson. Then also on the end, at the end, I also reference Benson also once. Then on question 2.1, also Benson mentioned something and I also reference her. Do I also write another Benson at the end of the reference list, or is it one? It's fine, or should I write two so that they follow each other? What?
Okay, so you're talking about two things. You are talking about an in-text reference.
Yeah.
That's where I do, let's just go here quickly. That's where I do this. Okay, we're talking about that in-text reference. So yeah, where Bloom is in the paragraph, now that's an in-text reference. But if I said, according to Bloom, there are 3 chairs in the image, I don't have to put Bloom at the end because I've already said according to Bloom.
Yes, I understand you, Prof.
Okay,
But
all right. Okay. Now in question 1.2, I use Bloom again, but now page 25.
yeah,
And then in question 4, I use Bloom again,
yeah.
but now question 36, I only have Bloom once in the reference list.
Or in the reference list, I only write one Bloom.
Yes, because the Bloom that you used in question 1.1, 1.2, and 5 is the same source. It's the same source.
But different pages.
Different pages. Okay, so while we have this page, can anybody tell me, please, what is wrong with the entry in the reference list? Don't say, type in the chat box. What is wrong with the entry in the reference list?
No, maybe the year it's missing.
Yes, the year is missing. The year is missing. So when you do your referencing, please make sure that it has all the elements. The author, the initial, then the date, then the title, then the place of publication, and then the publisher. I also want to advise that you go and look on my YouTube channel. I did a class yesterday for my master students in which I explained referencing specifically. Go and look and see how you do the different types of references.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
It's my pleasure. We have a question in the chat box. Which units should we focus on? All of them. Another question is there a need to paraphrase if I'm going to reference? Yes, definitely. The purpose of paraphrasing, Sedinia, is so that you are able to put the text in your own words. Otherwise, it means nothing because anybody can copy word for word out of the text, anybody. But that doesn't mean you understand what is in the text. So by paraphrasing, you are actually internalizing that information and then you are giving it in your own words. And then, because you are not the origin of that information, you reference. For example, this image on the screen now, I went and looked up how to define white, and I paraphrased what the author said so that it still has the same meaning, but just different words. It's in my own words. There will most certainly not be a crossword puzzle in the exam, Johannes. I'm very, very sorry, but I am not allowed to put a crossword puzzle in the exam. I tried it 1 year and I got into very big trouble. So no, sorry, no crossword puzzle. I think a lot of people are actually very happy that there's no crossword puzzle. Okay, while I have your undivided attention, in one sentence in the chat box, please tell me, what is the Lochner principle? Indivile, I'll be with you now. In one sentence, explain to me, what is the Lochner principle? I'm going to give you a moment. Yul, you may unmute yourself because I see nobody's answering. Perhaps you want to answer?
Yes, Professor, I can try.
Yes.
I was not expecting that you'll ask us question. But one thing that I know there's the Lochner and there's the Lockhart principle.
Yep.
The Lockhart principle is the one where in all know that a suspect or perpetrator can come at the scene, but whenever they leave, they will leave something behind. There will be evidence left at the scene. Obviously, he can't go
Yes.
into it leaving something. But however, the Lochner principle, according to my understanding, is the one wherein we talk about technology, the cell phone networking, where now to what's this? Yeah, cell phone networking, where now investigators have to detect the suspect or perpetrator using digital investigation, network towers and all those things. I think that's how I can put it in short.
Full marks, full marks. Well done. So the one is in physical space. The low card principle is in physical space. So if I touch the phone, my fingerprint is on the phone. If I step in the garden, my footprint is in the garden. The Lochner principle, guys, has got nothing to do with the trail of evidence. It's got nothing to do with an economic policy or some US stuff that I'm getting in the assignment. So it has to do with signals, cell phone signals. So the Lochner principle does have nothing to do with computers either. It's got to do with cell phone signals or signals specifically. So you track a suspect in terms of the movements of their cell phone when the cell phone links with the towers where they are moving. So well done, you got full marks for that answer. I get very upset when students use the internet to answer the question, but they don't make the effort to double check. All of this stuff is in your study guide. Then I get an answer about the Lochner principle is an economic policy passed by the US, what. Then I think to myself, you know what? We are not giving an economics class. We are giving an investigation class. Does the student not think that perhaps economics is not relevant to what we are discussing at this stage? So please, I really want you to, yes, go and do your research, but use the study guide as your basis. Okay, Indivile asked, is there a maximum number of references? No, I would rather say there's a minimum. Minimum is 4. Maximum is as many as you want to use. Gift has asked me to share the link to the master's class. I'm not going to do that, Gift. I'm going to put the responsibility in your hand. What I will do is I will give you a link to the YouTube channel. That master's class is on the YouTube channel. So you guys are learning to be detectives. Let's see how good you are at finding that specific video. Okay, Cornell, I see I don't have a choice but go for 100% pass on the exam. It's a must. Well, please, by all means, impress me. Guys, all you have to do is take your study guide, flag and tag it. Go and read and make a summary of these are the things in chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go and look at your case study. I do not repeat questions. So you will not find a question paper of last semester or the previous semester or the previous semester. Because I use case studies, you cannot copy and paste. And that's the simple reason I also did not give you the answers to assignment 2. I gave you where to find it in the book and what not to do. And I also gave a class on that. Ramasela asks, are there any restrictions on the type of references one can use? Yes, please don't use Wikipedia. Don't use the Drum magazine. Don't use the U magazine. Don't use the Huisgenoot. In an academic space, Ramasela, an acceptable reference is one that's reliable. So in other words, one that has been tested, one that has been verified. That is an acceptable reference. Not even a newspaper article. If you are going to give me the definition, let's have pointing out, you cannot use a newspaper article. Okay, Yul, you have your hand up. You may unmute and take the floor.
Thank you, Professor. Just a quick one. I wanted to ask, like now you just asked about that question of Lochner principle. If now I answered the question the way I answered it, but without putting a reference, will I be wrong or right? Because now I'm just applying my knowledge on it. I didn't quote anyone. So I want to know.
Okay. Where did you learn about the Lochner principle? Did you just wake up one morning and magically know?
No, I didn't wake up. No, I didn't wake up in the morning to know about it.
So you read it somewhere. Correct.
Yes, I read it somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, that doesn't matter. It's not your own. The information is not your own. You are not the origin of the information. So even if you read it long time ago, if you write it and you don't put a reference, you are stealing because it's not your idea. So if I write the 23rd Psalm, I have to quote the Bible because it's not my own. I didn't think up. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now I'm answering.
Sure. Okay, Tandeka, are we allowed to use other study guides like level 2? Please do that. Please do that. You will notice I make reference to FOR3608 and 2607 because the modules are linked, because there's a golden thread that runs through all of the modules. Please, and it will then ensure that you remember the work from the other modules. So Tandeka, brilliant question. And yes, please do. But remember, you cannot copy and paste directly out of the study guide. The system is going to pick it up and it's going to flag it for plagiarism if you copy directly. So please, you will not get an automatic disqualification. It will just mean that I have a lot more work to do after the exam to go and read through your work. So Tandeka, I hope that answers your question. I don't see any other hands. Do we have more hands? Any other questions? No more questions? Okay, Beauty, you may unmute yourself.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Beauty.
I wanted to ask, are we going to be asked to write a table of content?
No, you will not, Beauty. No table of content.
Okay. Okay, I was asking because I think I struggled a lot with that during the assignment.
Okay, no table of content.
Okay, thank you.
You may write your exam by hand, or you may type your exam and submit it electronically. When you write your exam by hand and you scan the documents in, please make sure you keep your phone still when you are taking the photos because sometimes they move the hand and then the image is blurred and I cannot read what you have written. Also make sure that you have scanned all the papers and you submit it as one document. Okay. Andile asked, will I be marked if I manage to only submit on the Invigilator app? You know what? I cannot answer that. Exams answer that. Because the reason that the question is why can you only submit on the Invigilator app? Why can you not submit also on the exam portal? Remember, the exam ends at 5 o'clock. It doesn't end at 10 past or half past. 5 o'clock. So that last 10, 20 minutes must be for uploading, not for pushing, and answering more questions. So I cannot answer that question because the exam looks at time factors and the like. I would urge you submit on both, please. Ramasela, handwriting by all means is allowed, by all means, but please do not write as if you are a medical doctor and you write like a crab. I can only mark what I can read. So if you're going to write by hand, make sure you write legibly and you write neatly so that I can read what you have written. Make sure that you label your questions correctly. Make sure that you read your questions correctly. Ask yourself, what is the question asking? Some of you in this past exam complained bitterly about the objectives of surveillance and said, but no, I answered what was in the study guide, but you give me a list. If I ask you to discuss or explain or define, you don't give me a bullet list. And if I ask you to make a list, you must link what you are doing to the case study. If you give me what's in the study guide and it's out of 5, you're going to get 2, maybe. You're not even going to pass the question. You have to put on the lens of the case study to make sure that you are applying the principle, let's say, of the objectives of surveillance to the case study. If you do not apply it to the case study, how do I know that you understand the work? That is the problem. Okay, any more questions? I think I've covered all the I think I've covered all the questions. Anybody else wants to ask a question? You are more than welcome to raise your hand. Okay, if you aren't going to ask a question, let me ask a question. What legislation in South Africa regulates the polygraph testing? Any question? Anybody? You can answer on the chat or you can raise your hand. Let me make it easy. Is there a specific piece of legislation that regulates how polygraphs must be used, may be used, should be used? A specific piece of legislation designed just for polygraphs. You, yes?
Professor, from my side, from what I know, I don't know any legislation that was designed for polygraph, because in most different polygraph is not even admissible in a court of law. So I'm not sure if there is a legislation that was drafted for polygraph. So
You are quite correct. Johannes and Kabinde, you are also correct. There is no specific legislation in South Africa that regulates the use of a polygraph. There is a collection of legislations that have an impact on the use of polygraph, but there is not a specific legislation. So what happens is the student gets the question, what is the legislation that governs the polygraph? And I type it into ChatGPT. And Chat gives me a legislation, a name, and a number, and everything. And I put that in the answer sheet without double checking. Now, folks, you are trying to study to be a detective. Chat is going to land you in hot water. Being a detective, I don't know if you know the series. There's a series on TV, Bosch. He had a little post-it note in his office that said, get off your butt and go and knock on some doors. That is where you get information, by going out and looking for the information, by collecting the information, by talking to people. FOR3608, we talked about interviewing, building rapport, getting the person to open up to you. That's where you get information from the suspect who was involved in the crime, and then from witnesses and victims. You are not going to get it necessarily sitting on your butt in an office, posting on Telegram, guys, where can I get this? Where can I get that? It doesn't work that way. Being a detective is very hard work. It's not as sexy as it looks like on TV. It's hard and often ungrateful work, but it's rewarding when you get your conviction in court. Alrighty, any other questions? I'm going to give you a moment to think quickly if you have anything else that you want to ask. Johannes, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, Prof. I just wanted to, good evening, actually. I just wanted to ask for, as I'm doing the supplementary exam, is there any way where I can find tutorial 201 for assignment 2?
Okay, Johannes, I'm circulating everything from the exam platform. So if you are linked to the exam platform, you have access to all the additional resources. So for my module 3701, tutorial letter 201 was just about the crossword puzzles. Tutorial letter 202, I will be putting on there very, very soon. Then you will all have access to it. We were just not finished with the marking yet, so that's why we have not circulated it yet. But it will be available via the exam platform.
Okay, no, thank you. It's because I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. That's why I was asking about it. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands. So I'm going to give us a countdown from 5, 4, 3. Yes, somebody. Somebody wanted to talk. 2. Okay, Masiza. Yes, talk to me.
Maybe this might not be in relation to everything, but yeah, it's just a quick question.
Yeah.
On the pointing out, it's usually they're very specific on that. You should not promise a suspect anything and everything. You should never promise a suspect anything. But in most cases, to get something, to get information from a potential suspect, you have to promise a suspect something.
What do you promise him, Masiza?
That's what I'm trying to get. That's what I'm trying to understand. To say is, for information, you do usually it's usually you give me something, I give you something back. Is it not?
Okay, I think it's an art to be able to really interview / interrogate a suspect, and then to do the pointing out. So by the time you get to the pointing out, that person has already, by his actions, admitted to being involved. So you know what? You're involved because you have agreed to do the pointing out. How do you know where the body is or where the money is hidden if you were not involved? Okay, so I honestly don't need to promise you anything, because by the time you've agreed to do the pointing out, your goose is cooked. But I do know that sometimes they would say, you know what, I'll speak to the prosecutor. I will tell the prosecutor you cooperated. But you cannot promise anything like, you know what, we'll go lighter on your sentence, or I will look after your family. You cannot do that. It's not just unethical. I think it's very cruel to do things like that. But Masizo, let me tell you the honest truth. When you approach the suspect like a human being, and you treat the suspect like a human being, yes, perhaps they were criminals, they did something bad. It doesn't matter. You are the investigator. You are supposed to be objective. You are there to find evidence to prove an allegation. So you cannot have made up in your mind that this person is already guilty. You treat that person, number one, with dignity and respect and like a human being. And I can guarantee you, in most of the instances, that suspect will give you cooperation. Okay, Ramasela has asked, do we in-text reference or in your own words answers? Yes, Pamela, Ramasela, because the in your own words comes from somewhere. So if I am told to say, according to Psalm 23, who is the shepherd? Then I will answer, the Lord is my shepherd, according to Psalm 23. And I will go and look and get the reference out of the Bible, because I did not think up the answer on my own. Doesn't matter if it's in your own words. If it's in your own words, you took the guy's information and you made it your own in terms of your own understanding, and then you gave it over in terms of your own understanding, but you are not the origin of the text. Okay. Masita, I hope you answered.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof.
Okay. All right, folks, I don't see any more hands. I don't see any more questions in the chat box. We have been busy for 51 minutes, and I think it's been a very fruitful session. So thank you very, very much for everybody for pitching up and for attending the class. I will be posting the link to the recording on the module site for FOR3701 first semester this year, second semester this year, and second semester last year, as well as on my YouTube channel. And that is then where you will also find the masterclass links for the referencing. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Please do pop me an email if there are further questions or issues that you want to clarify. And I'm super, super, super happy that there were so many in class tonight. And I honestly, I look forward to marking your stuff and then not seeing your names in my module again, because your success is my success. Folks, have a wonderful evening and sleep well and all the best. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.